Okay, welcome everybody to the Earth in Hand podcast. Today, my guest is Claudine Desiree. Did I say that correctly?
Yes, you did. Desiree. Désiré in French.
Claudine, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, Scott.
Hey, wonderful. Yeah, so it's my honor and privilege to do this interview with you today, and this is really unique. You and I just met, and we've both been doing natural building for, gosh, over 20 years, and leading these parallel lives. So I'm just so happy that we've met and get to continue knowing each other on this journey in natural building. So yeah, just welcome to the show, and thanks for taking the time to be here. Claudine has traveled the world teaching natural building workshops for years. She used to live in Santa Cruz and taught there, and she's traveled the world also by bicycle, and done just so many workshops and so many beautiful cob structures. And she specializes in cob building. And her company is called Cruisin' Cob Global. I love the name, just cruising. And yeah, and currently Claudine is living in the Azores Islands in the middle of the Atlantic, and is constructing an eco village of her own design. So yeah, tell us a little bit about your eco village.
Well, it's really exciting, Scott, to have your own piece of land to do whatever the hell you want to do with it. And nobody can kick you off or ask you, well, people can ask for things, like permits and stuff, but to just have a piece of land and start from like a blank slate, except for obviously the fruit trees, the banana trees, the guava trees, the grenadilla trees, which is a passion fruit family, and the loquats that were already here, and figs. There was nothing. And when I walked onto the piece of land to look at it, I just knew this is the spot. I had my check boxes of got to be bikeable distance to everything, um, close to the ocean, like walkable distance to the ocean, ideally, um, and also not too far from the airport. I didn't want to be isolated at all the way, at the other end of the islands where it's like a 40-minute to hour drive to get to the capital, Punta Delgada. Um, some people like to be isolated. I didn't want to be isolated, but I still feel like I'm on this land. I'm in a rural, like agricultural zone, but like, you know, 100 feet down are houses and then the beach, the ocean. So I'm close, but I feel like I'm far, and that's what I wanted. Um, and yeah, so the location works, the climate. I love that the piece of land had already mature fruit trees on it, and chickens already here. And that it didn't have any buildings except for a small a small stone shed. And so, within the first few weeks of being here, I already had the vision. I'm like, okay, this is going to be the bathing area, outdoor bathtubs, outdoor showers, a sauna. Um, I already felt like that's where that would go. And then I knew the area where like the living spaces would be, and then a more like camping zone with a yoga deck, and then the food forest and the food area, food production area, and then the compost toilets, and of course the outdoor kitchen, and eating area. So I like within a few weeks, I already drew it up on a large piece of paper, and today here it is. I'm on the second floor, covered balcony terrace of a two-story cob and light clay straw permitted building. Like I almost didn't make it with this building. When it started and they were putting up these, 15-foot posts, I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I can go through with this. It's a bit scary. Like I've never done a two-story before. And I certainly don't have like a contractor's license or, any kind of engineering or architecture degree. Um, like all I have is like my cob background and speaking to people. Of course, this building was had to have an engineer, draw a design and an architect. But I mean, we're in the Azores. The engineer cost me $500. The architect was like 2,000. I was like, sure, let's do this.
So they
I
had
remember,
no problems permitting your cob dwelling there.
well, there were no problems at all, but it's not permitted as a residence. A it's permitted as a warehouse.
Hmm.
And I could have permitted it as a residence. It would have cost me more money. It would have taken longer, and I would have had to have a bathroom and kitchen and the bedroom, and it has to be this size, and the space between the bathroom and the bedroom has to be this. And it was just I didn't want any of that. I have my outdoor kitchen, I have the compost toilets, I have the outdoor showers and bathtubs I had inside the house. So all I
Yeah.
needed was a big room upstairs and a big room downstairs, which is a warehouse
Yeah.
in accordance, you know? So it took a year to get everything finished, like all the drawings, the engineering, the topographical study. They had to, do a study on like sound, electrical, like all the different like, like in the States, like all the different departments have to approve, right? And so yeah, and so it was amazing, Scott, because I swear, I promise you, 3 days, the Friday, the Friday before the workshop was starting that was gonna build this two-story, I got the final permit. Like that.
Amazing. Yeah, that's outstanding. Good timing there. And so how many
Well,
buildings have you built at this place so far?
so uh Cobb buildings, 5, all with workshops. Um and so obviously earning money while I'm getting the buildings built. The dream, you know, because the last time I ever had a cob house on my own land was in Santa Cruz in like, 2004. So 20 years ago, pretty much, was the last time I ever had a cob workshop where I benefited from the cob structure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Years that I've been teaching, the workshops have been on other people's land. And so, I never ended up living in those buildings or experiencing them. Of course, I had my own buildings in Santa Cruz that I lived in for 20 years. Yeah, for 20 years. Um, but this was kind of cool because honestly, I didn't have a whole bunch of money. Everything I had, I used to buy this land. So it really worked nicely that as soon as I put out my workshop online and people started registering, which actually started during the pandemic year of 2020, I was I was so amazed, Scott. Like I got the land in January. I immediately published the first workshop was going to be in March on my birthday. immediately got people signed up. The workshop filled up in 2 months during the pandemic.
Everybody
And
just
then,
wanted to get out, probably. They were ready to go somewhere else. Yeah.
yeah, and fly here, fly to the Azores from Europe and the States.
Hmm.
We having to postpone it till October because of all the flight restrictions that was starting to happen, where they weren't allowing flights from the US to the Azores for a little bit,
Right.
Europe. So there were restrictions. So we ended up postponing it till October.
Hmm.
But the thing is that everyone who had paid to register, they took it in October. So I had money to actually start preparing the land to receive the workshop. So all the money that students were paying me helped me to build this eco village and to get the
Sure.
materials and to set up the toilets and to create a kitchen and everything. So I'm very, very grateful. Everything has been going utterly smoothly here. Like it's just a green light after a green light after a green light. Like spirit is like, keep going, keep going, keep going. You're doing good. I haven't had any obstacles on this journey of creating this dream, this vision, manifesting it. And I'm like, wow, I don't know. Must be
Yeah.
doing something right.
Yeah. Just meant to be. Sounds like you found the right place. Wonderful. And so, and you said you're renting the land, is that right?
What do you mean I'm renting land?
Did you bought the land?
I bought the land.
Okay. Okay, I understand. Well, that's even better. Amazing. So you're creating this like long-term village that you're going to reap the benefits from here on out. That's wonderful.
Remember when we spoke earlier, I told you that I spent 5 years on a bicycle
Yeah.
and was able to save money because I wasn't paying mortgage, I wasn't paying rent. Um, the hosts of the workshops I was teaching were paying for my transportation. When I'd get to the workshop, obviously all those costs were covered. And then the workshops were also funding me because that was my profession. Is my well, we'll talk about that later. So I was able to save money in those 5 years to be able to buy a piece of land, which no one in my family has ever had land. I'm the
Mm,
first one.
wow. That's deep. Well, congratulations. That sounds ideal because I understand what you're saying. Like I've done workshops for, 20 years on other people's land mostly. And it's interesting because you might create the most amazing piece of art and someone else is paying for the materials and it's their land and it's theirs. Then they can change it, they can tear it down, they can do whatever they want with it. And sometimes that's a bit difficult. And then I also did have some land for a while. I had a homestead in Oregon and I did have some workshops there, but the land itself and the location wasn't very ideal for doing something like a Cobb Eco Village, and so it wasn't as advantageous as I thought it might be. And when you're hosting your own workshops, you also have to pay for all the materials, like you said, and get ready to have the people there, and you got to have bathrooms, and there's a lot to it. So it's amazing when all the pieces fall into place, like a divine plan there. So it's
To
wonderful.
say it's not easy because I was hosting and teaching the workshops. Um, so yeah, maybe that's what you're talking about, like being the host and the instructor too is
Well, right. We all need
double.
money to live, right? And then if you're hosting and teaching, then some of the money from the participants has got to go into the materials, like you said, and the engineer, and so there's a lot of expenses. So it could be a tricky thing to juggle. And I think there's a lot of youth out there in the world right now a lot of people of all different ages that they want to become professional natural builders. And a lot of people approach me and ask me, well, how did you do it? And I'm like, well, it's a long story. It is quite complicated, I think, to get into something like this, and requires a lot of stick to activity, a lot of tenacity to pull it off on the business side. So, if there's anything else you want to share with the audience about that aspect, I think people are really interested to hear about the business side.
Well, I just started. Um, it was never a plan. Like I'm gonna be a cob workshop instructor, or I'm going to have a cob business. I never went to business school, or I never, my dad was a lawyer, an immigration lawyer. So I don't come from a business background. I didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't planning anything. It just happened organically. Workshop by workshop, I got more and more experience, and ultimately, creating the international version of Cruising Cobb Global, which started in Santa Cruz. Again, little by little, I remember teaching my first workshop in Watsonville, and I don't know, people like just came. And um then I did another one. I said, this is a fun way to earn a living, you know? And it earns well too, because it depends how many workshops you're going to teach a year, but eventually, with my international version of Cruising Cobb, which became Cruising Cobb Global, then I started realizing, when I started this bike trip, I'm like, I have a pretty known name right now. Like, people know who I am. I can Google Cruising Cobb, and I come up. I mean, not Cruising Cobb, sorry, Cobb workshops. And so the creation of Cruising Cobb Global was more intentional. Like, okay, I'm traveling internationally now. I'm gonna try. I need to make money while I'm traveling. I'm not just gonna use the little money I had left from selling my house and then come back to nothing. So I don't want to touch that little nest. And I'm gonna see if I can do these workshops internationally. And so I went on to Workaway, this great website for volunteering, or internationally. And I saw this woman in the Canary Islands was saying, I need help building a cob house. So I contacted her and said, hey, I can help you, but I'm not going to help you. I want to organize a workshop with you, and let's get students to build it. And that way you get your thing built, and I make some money, teaching, which is my profession. And so she said, yeah, let's do it. And so we winged it. We had 25 students, and in 4 days, we finished her 2-story Cobb studio in 4 days. Why? Because she already had half of the wall was built out of concrete, which was gross, but we only built 2 of the walls. But we had so many students that it just, and the wind was dry and hot, so we could build like 2 meters a day, like two, not 2 meters, sorry, 1 meter a day, 2 feet, like more than 2 feet a day of cob, almost 3
Wow.
feet.
Yeah.
Just as soon as we put it on the wall, it was dry, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
That
and
helps.
we had the hand power and the foot power, the human power, and everyone was excited. So anyway, that workshop, I met someone at that workshop who said, hey, I want to do a workshop on my land. And so I organized one on his land 6 months, for 6 months later. In the meantime, I went to Cabo Verde and Senegal, because those were on my list of places I wanted to visit. And little by little, the same thing. I would meet people. They say, we want to do a cob workshop. We would plan it, organize it. And then 6 months later, I would go back to that spot after I'd advertised it on my website and got a bunch of students to come. And then I'd have a workshop. So, it's been 5 years since the Cruise Cobb Global version started and the 5 week full build workshop started because I never used to do that. And I just went for it. I'm like, I'm just going to do it. Just going to try this, a 5 week full build. And all my workshops have been, almost all of them have been full, since I started doing those. And people told me like nobody else is really doing this, and we really want to invest in learning how to build a cob house from beginning to end with a reciprocal frame roof. And so that's been like my niche over the last 5 years has been these full builds. And the people I get at these builds are super motivated. It's not cheap. They have to come up with, a bunch of money. Like now the 5 week workshop is $2,500, including food and camping. Um, and people have to come up with that money. They have to make themselves available for 5 weeks and they have to work their asses off. So I, I
That's
only
fair.
get hardcore students.
Yeah,
The
that's
per
fair for what they learn, and the empowerment. I mean, I think it's really about empowerment on every level for people. And so, this thing that you're doing is such a service to humanity. And I think a lot of people know, and they're really attracted to the energy that we bring to the world. And it's a great service. So good on you. Kudos.
Thank you, Scott. And it's a lot of hard work too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, does your back ever hurt? Maybe.
It's more my wrists.
Okay.
Um, yeah, that's kind of like my weak spot, but the back too.
Yeah.
But these days, but cobbing in the workshops, I demonstrate and then let them go on
Yeah, of
it.
course.
Are
Definitely. Yeah,
you
there's something so beautiful when you get this group of people and there's all this energy and bliss and there's the synergy. People, they always end up being friends by the end of the workshop and they have new connections. And a lot of my good friends are former students of mine, people I met years and years ago, and we're still friends. And so I just meet such a great quality people at the workshops, and it's always fun. It's a good time. Yeah.
That's the secret, that, like, people think they're signing up to learn how to build a cob house, and then they get all these other perks out of it as well, including networking and people creating businesses together or building each other's houses together, and for sure, I mean, I call it the Cruise Cobb Global family because what happens is I have students who want to take another workshop, and so I offer them to come for free, except for paying food, to take the workshop again and to learn how to be an assistant. Like they're not the official assistant, they're a return student, but they're like a secondary assistant. So they get another experience of building somewhere else with different soils, a different kind of structure. And so these return students end up meeting the students at the new workshop as well as my assistant, um, and everyone starts to like cross pollinate across the different cob families that have been created with each of the workshops, and I love it. I love it. I love that they start to know each other and then they end up building together and working together. And for me, that's the yes, I'm happy to teach people how to build cob for sure. But I don't know, the love that is born in each of these workshops, this like, because nobody looks good. Everyone's like waking up, they smell, they haven't like maybe brushed their teeth or like we see each other all day, 5 weeks in every kind of mood, every kind of like energy situation, tears and laughter and, you know, like all kinds of connections. But it's love. It's like this very pure love. I'm not talking about like sexual, intimate relationship. I'm saying everyone just loves everyone
Hmm.
deeply by
Yeah.
the end of the week, you know?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that shared experience, something we all go through together, and yeah, and just applying yourself to the work, and I think you mentioned on your website how you notice all the students, they just love sculpting. Like everyone's always drawn to the artistic part, and this everyone's a special kind of artist. You know what I'm saying? And I see that all the time. And so I think over the years, I found my most popular workshops are actually plasters, paints, and I've offered some specifically sculpture workshops, unfired sculpture, because I mean, that's what I want to do too. I mean, that's why sometimes I'm building a huge building, and to me, it's a canvas. I want to decorate it. And a lot of times, even like the money runs out, at the end, and then I don't really get to decorate it that much, or end up just spending some pro bono art time or something. But the students, everyone gravitates toward sculpting with Cobb. It's just such a natural and intuitive thing. And I notice
Yeah.
your buildings are really well decorated. You guys do a lot of sculpture.
Yeah, absolutely. As a matter of fact, the workshop in Portugal, which is being taught by, my senior student, if you want to say that, Leah, who's been, working with me, teaching me first 5-week workshop, and Nico, her assistant, is from the Azores. He's also been an assistant. Anyway, today is sculpting day, and yesterday everyone was exhausted because it's been raining. They haven't been able to build properly. They've been trying to build in the rain just to stay on schedule, because there's a schedule. People have their flights to go back home afterwards. So today, the sculpting was supposed to be Thursday and Friday. So now it's like today was optional sculpting, and tomorrow morning half of the day is as much as we could give, to be able to stay on schedule. And still, people were exhausted, but it sounds like everyone's on it. They're all sculpting, So that's, I mean, that's the ice cream. That's the dessert after all that hard work, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's also not easy in my workshops. Like the day before the sculpting is like finishing the wall, and you're like working your ass off throwing those cob loaves up there, and everyone's like sweating and just like really tired because now it's like 8 days of building the cob wall, and they have no idea that the next day when sculpting starts, the rhythm is going to just change drastically, and that they're going to have to like just chill out and connect with their inner artist, and it's not
Mhm.
easy. It's a hard switch.
Interesting. So, are you guys doing workshops in other languages? Is it in Portuguese there?
No, it's in English. It's in English. um, Everyone speaks English. I have done workshops in Spanish, in French, and in Portuguese, when I've traveled to those countries that speak those languages. Whoops.
So you speak all those languages.
I do. I do. And
Awesome.
yeah, it was cool learning all the terminology in those languages too, like slip and cantilever and trimming. Like, I started developing my cob vocabulary in these different languages so I could teach.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I taught a couple workshops in Spanish in Puerto Rico, and
Nice.
yeah, it's really fun, and the people are always super supportive. Like if you don't know a word for something, you can describe it to them, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, that's the word for it." So um,
How was that in Puerto Rico?
I love Puerto Rico. I can't believe it's been so many years since I've been there, and I'm hoping to go back maybe this winter. So I have a dear friend that I met when I did some workshops there years ago, and I'd really like to go back and catch up with him. Armando, shout out to
Oh,
Armando.
nice. Well, I've never been to Puerto Rico, but to tell you the truth, I'm thinking about uh, creating an eco village with my sons. Puerto Rico is one of the possibilities that they're interested in if it's not going to be in the States, or it could be there and the States. Puerto Rico, I'm very drawn to Cuba, Haiti, and the Dominican Republic because I love those cultures, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I love the Caribbean. I taught a few times in Jamaica as well, and I love Jamaica too. I mean, Jamaica is like I could definitely live there, or Puerto Rico. Just really good people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a
It,
nice environment. Yeah, it's like it's kind of similar to Hawaii a bit. The tropical island and great temperatures, lots of food growing all the time. It has a lot to offer, and the culture is just incredible. So so yeah, where were we? Oh, okay. I was gonna ask you about, so all these international cob workshop experiences. You feel like there's some kind of like a cross-cultural exchange going on, right? So do you get to learn natural building techniques from the local people sometimes that you hadn't seen before?
Absolutely. Uh, um, kind of actually. What I sorry, I'm eating now while I'm what I learned, Scott, is the best thing I learned on my trip was all the different types of fibers that I could use if there's no bales of straw, which most of these third world countries, like in Africa, there's no bales of straw. In Cape Verde, Cabo Verde, there's no bales of straw. In South America, in Brazil, where I was, they didn't have bales of straw either. So there isn't like, oh, I'll just get, my sand here and I'll order the straw. No, I had to figure out um, alternatives to that, to the fiber, and also to the foundation material, because some places didn't even have stones, which that's usually what I use for foundation is stone.
Sure.
Like in Africa and Senegal, it was hard to find stones, at least in the area that I was. So we used tires. And obviously rubble, like broken up concrete, urbanite type stuff. But mostly it's the fibers I had to figure out. Like there's something called sisal or sisal here.
Yeah, I've used
Sisal.
sisal. Yeah, we chopped it with machetes on a stump to get it shorter, to put it in the cob.
Wow. Yeah. I remember also someone telling me that they use pine needles, like long pine needles. And when I went to Cabo Verde this year in May to do a workshop there, we use the pine needles because they don't have straw, and any wild grasses they need for their animals. It's very poor there. So I had to find a material that they didn't already need, for forage for their animals, because they're going through a drought. So their pine needles were like a foot long and flexible. And so we just used tons of those pine needles in the cob, and it
Wow.
was nice because it was everywhere. It was just like everywhere you go, you just pick up, huge handfuls and fill a sack in like 2 minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
So Yeah, but in terms of like in Africa and Senegal, I only went to Senegal and Cabo Verde were the only African countries that I taught workshops in. You know, they honestly they didn't really have good techniques there, so that's why I had to really prove to them that earthen buildings don't just fall when the rainy season comes,
Okay.
because their houses had no foundations. They were just starting the cob right on the ground,
Yeah,
you know.
which is a
And they
common
weren't,
thing in a lot of really dry places. They do put the adobe right down onto the ground, because I think in the past, I mean, they just didn't have any other materials, and it works okay in a dry place for a while.
yeah, but like in Senegal it's dry, but when it rains hard.
Yeah.
And so, you know, all that moisture gets wicked up the walls and the bottom of the wall starts softening, you know, and soon enough the whole building is kind of, you know, melting down, as they say.
Mm.
So they got used to rebuilding like every year, you know, rebuilding after the rains. And so when I went there, they weren't so hot on earthen construction, but you know, I showed them that we make a foundation, that we test. I showed them how to test, you know, to get the correct mixture. And so several of the students in that workshop went on to build themselves cob additions on top of their concrete block buildings.
Right on. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about
And,
you? I mean, when I was in Colombia, they showed me like pareque, you know, pareque is like wattle and daub, you
yeah,
know?
the pajareke, it's like a straw clay wattles. They kind of weave it into the sticks.
Yeah. Do
Yeah.
you know that? Have
Yeah.
you done that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where?
I've seen it before in Portland, actually. Yeah, in Oregon, because there's been a lot of natural building community here over the years, and people are interested in different techniques. So we tried out a lot of things, and
Hmm.
it was pretty popular for a little while. But I like straw clay. I like cob. I like straw clay. I think those two are some of the, for me, it's some of the more fast and rewarding. And then I did a lot of earth bag because it's also fast, and you can plaster over the earth bags with cob at the end. It looks like a cob wall anyway.
Hmm. What do you put in your earth bags? You put cement?
No, just whatever we have, gravel, clay mixed together, or kind of like a rammed earth mix of sand and clay with just a tiny bit of water. So it's a little bit faster than cob because there's less mixing, and there's also a lot less water required. And then there's the advantages of the bags and the barbed wire if you use that technique where it's got a lot of shear strength. It's very earthquake resistant. So I tried a lot of different things. I really like cob though. It seems like we always come back to cob. And
Me too.
my first workshop was in cob, and so and I came out of more like a ceramics background as a kid.
Oh,
And so I think there's just a lot to be said for the simplicity. Just sculpting directly with your hands, and people love it. And simple. There's no, sharp metal objects that you're dealing with. So everybody can be barefoot and barehanded, and it's just a
yeah.
very different construction experience than you find on these, modern construction sites where everybody has to have protective gear. And that anyway. Oh, I was going to ask you about like, so in Senegal, did you learn any Wolof?
Of course.
Wow, wow.
Wow
They say
means
wow, wow. I think it's like their way of saying kind of like, oh
oh
yeah. They're like, wow, wow. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, remember when they would just say wow, and I was just laughing, um, because wow is uh an English word, you know.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I spent quite a bit, 9 months in Senegal. I biked through with my sons, um, and did a couple rounds in Senegal. Um, I learned some Wolof, but you know they all speak French
Right.
also.
Right.
Yeah, biking through
Yeah.
Senegal, man, so easy. Well, I should take that back. So easy in the rural areas, but sometimes we had to hit like the national road, and it was like the scariest thing ever. Um, I can't believe we survived.
Yeah. I mean, there are some rough patches for sure. I spent some time in Dakar with
Oh,
a drum teacher of mine, Chon Diop. He taught me a lot in djembe and African
hmm.
drumming. And we were just staying there with his family in Dakar, and it was cool because you know you're in the big city, you can actually go and hear all these shows and lots of famous musicians, and I was with a famous musician introducing me to other cool people, and so that part was great. But if I had been in Dakar by myself, I don't think I would have had any fun because it's a huge city, and you got to have your wits about you at all times. But
But
yeah,
also Senegal was super safe. You know, we camped every night outside. Nothing ever happened. We never got robbed or
right.
arrested or anything. I felt very safe there, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Like I traveled all around West Africa, and I felt totally safe. You know, there's some times where people they want some money, they're desperate or whatever, but mostly it's in the realm of like scamming or trying to charge the wrong price, or it's not so much like, robbery or anything. People are generally,
Yeah.
there's a very high level of integrity and safety, and everybody's watching everybody else, and people are very kind. And
Yeah.
yeah, I always, a lot of my travels, there's so many people just welcome me in. I get to stay at their house, and everybody's so kind, and it's amazing. It's very welcoming out there. Yeah.
When were you in Africa?
Uh, gosh, um, I'm not sure what year that was. Maybe 2007. Yeah,
Okay.
2007. I think I went for the first time, and then and just traveled around, studied drumming. I originally went to do an earth bag project in Ghana, but it fell through. And so I just traveled around. I had a great time, and then organized the one workshop I taught in Mali was a couple years after that, uh, or it must have been a year later. And so yeah, we went to a village in Dogon country and built earthen dome for the primary school as like kind of a gift, and it was amazing.
Wow. You built an earthen dome. How did you do that? Because I'm curious, because right now, um, I'm building an earthen temascal here for I'm having a women's sensuality retreat here, kind of changing gears right now and heading in another direction. Um,
Oh yeah,
and
cool.
yeah.
Like a women's
Um,
empowerment kind of workshop,
what'd you say?
like women's empowerment type workshop.
Yes. Using sensuality and sexuality as the tool, um, for empowerment. Yeah. And healing and discovery, and self-love, basically. Like, wow. Um, I've been learning a lot. I'm not the one who's teaching. I took a workshop in March, and I just woke up on many levels to myself, and I felt very empowered and wanted to share it as much as possible and learn more. So I've invited 4 teachers here, who are gonna teach the retreat. it's a retreat slash workshop. And I said that I would build the Temascal, sweat lodge
Yeah,
out of
yeah,
cob.
yeah. Okay, so I've seen a cob Temascal before. A friend of mine had one in Puerto Rico, and it was this little, little earth dome, and it was up on little rocks and very cute. And I think they actually used like some sticks to guide it in the beginning. I didn't see it built, but I just gave him some advice about plastering it on the outside because he wanted like a semi-waterproof type plaster. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I mean, the dome in Mali was earth bag, so it's totally different because there's well-established methods for doing domes with earth bags, and it's fairly easy if you just follow the technique exactly. Um, but to do a cob dome, it's similar, but it's not done that often because you would have to have pretty ideal conditions and have more skill to do it in like a puddle adobe or like a wet cob material. So typically, if you want to do more like a adobe dome, it would be done in bricks. So you'd make the bricks, dry the bricks, and then stack the bricks into a dome shape with the adobe mortar. That's usually how it's done.
Okay. Well, my son Viva told me about some guy, I have to look at his name, um, that builds kind of light clay straw slash cob domes, like huge ones. Um, I think I have the foundation going. I think I'm gonna start with cob, and I'm gonna slowly like cantilever, each layer over until it feels like I can't anymore. And then I'm gonna put like bamboo. They have kana here, which is like bamboo poles. Just bend them and stick them into the sides, and then maybe I'll use like the sisal or some kind of rope, hemp rope, to create a lattice, or branches or something that will help to support the cob as it approaches. I mean, once it touches, once both sides or the circle hits, I think you're good. It's like an oven. Like, then it supports itself. But it's just that scary like overhanging part. So I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah. Well, there's another idea too. I don't know the size, but you could always like get a bunch of cinder blocks and like stack them up and then build a sand dome over it and then build the cob dome over the sand dome and then pull all the supporting material out at the end like an oven construction.
No, this is too big. It's
Too
like,
big. Yeah.
yeah, this is too big. It would be a lot of sand.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think, no, Scott, I've never in my 20 plus years of cobbing, I have never built a structure by myself, like where I had total control and
Mm.
nobody else was participating. So I'm kind of excited because I'm in this transition time right now in my life where I've decided to stop teaching cob workshops.
Really? Okay. Wow. I didn't know. Well, congratulations.
um at
And
least
you're
at least the long ones, the 5 week ones, the ones that really stuck my energy. But the thing is, Scott, that I want to pass the torch on to the new generation of teachers, you know students who have learned with me, who have gone on to start businesses, or who have gone on to build, who have experience and who want to teach, Cruise and Cobb global workshops in different countries. I want to support them in becoming, the new teachers. And I have like this training program where, I find a workshop for them, and then I kind of coach them before the workshop, where they create their posters, their teaching materials, And then during the workshop, I'm also coaching them. We're checking in regularly. And I just don't have the energy. And it's not the physical energy for building, it's for dealing with people.
Oh, I totally get it. Yeah, I totally understand that. And yeah, I mean, I've also moved into like more consulting and design work as time's gone by because, you know, I can earn a lot more, and also it's more rewarding for me. I'm involved in many more projects. I'm coaching owner builders through their projects instead of me necessarily being there to build everything. Although I love building still. So I
Yeah.
understand. Yeah, there's like this kind of logical transition um, toward, you know, being more of a coach. Really.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, and then, you have all these years of experience. So people know who you are, and you have a reputation. So, it's, yeah, like you said, it's logical. And then the new generations that are all like gung ho and, want to build my house, like they're lucky to have us, elders. I mean, you're not a full elder yet. I'm a little more elder than you, but
I didn't know.
you're more elder than the youngins that are in
I
their
got I got my
20s.
gray hairs coming in. Yeah, my distinguished look.
Do you live in a cob house?
No, no, I don't. I live in a stick-built home right now, and actually, it's really wonderful because I live with my partner, and the house is just such a good design, and we love it. So, yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
And do you is it yours? Do you own it?
Yeah, it's paid for. So that's kind of, to me, that's
Nice.
sort of the prerequisite. It's like, okay, I never wanted to get into that debt cycle, the mortgage, you know. I did buy a house years ago, but I bought it and it needed work and it was very, very cheap. It was super affordable. And I got it on an owner carry contract, and then I was able to like fix it and then sell it at a great profit. So um, you know, that was kind of
Nice.
its own project. But for me, my view on like owning land and real estate is more like, you know, do we need to own it? You know, do we need to pay for it to use it? I've been so many places and teaching workshops and establishing connections in different places in the world. Um, I like to just, you know, go visit other people's land and contribute to their land and contribute wherever I can. I may end up with like a eco village location like you have someday, but I'm not sure if I need to. I'm comfortable just being in the world. You know, we're only here on Earth for a time anyway, and I'm just here to, you know, give out my energy and give out my knowledge as much as I can, and help my friends wherever possible. So, you know, we're kind of like an international uh, creative group of positive change makers that everybody is on the same team, you know. So I'm sure, you know, as you travel around, there are many places where you're welcome, and many places where you can spend some time. So there's that.
Actually, I like I told you earlier, I long for, I'm missing the nomad bike touring life, because like what you said, meeting so many people, feeling welcome, bringing them what I bring, my own, because so many of those people like that I met in in Africa, in Latin America, they will never leave their village,
I
let
know.
alone, take an airplane to go somewhere. So when we arrive, it's like a breath of like newness and, fresh air. And like Americans, they just buy a ticket and go somewhere, when they want to get away from their usual surroundings. But over there, in many countries, for them, foreigners coming are like they're traveling. It's like their
Yeah,
traveling experience.
definitely.
So
Yeah.
yeah. Well, in terms of the ownership of land, I mean, I like, it's nice that I have something that I can like do what I want with here, design how I want, and like create, manifest this like vision from my mind onto and a paper into reality. Like it's really fulfilling, And not
Yeah.
only that, I'm turning this people on from this island that have never seen anything like this before, because here it's all about stones, because it's a volcanic island. So it's like Hawaii, all the houses are built out of stone, the old houses. The new ones are built out of cement blocks, which is gross. And they've never seen cob. Like this is brand new for here.
But they have
Even though,
clay there. There's clay in the soil though.
well, that's an interesting issue too, because when I first landed on this island, San Miguel, everyone said, "Oh, there's no clay here. There's no clay." The clay's on the other island over there, Santa Maria. That's where all the clay is, because traditionally all the pottery and the earthenware, like dishes and stuff, was all made on that other island, because that other island is pretty heavy with clay. Like you just dig down and it's like this super sticky stuff. And but people don't know that that's not what I'm looking for. I don't necessarily need like a super sticky clay. I just need some clay in the soil. So everybody, like when I taught my first workshop here, they're like, "Oh no, there's no clay here. You'll have to order it from Santa Maria." I've built 5 houses here, plus a sauna at the other end of the island. Plus my student is building his mother an art studio. There's clay here. It's just
Yeah.
people don't really understand that you don't need pure clay. You just need
Right.
a clay soil. Yeah.
Yeah, some clay. And then I've had projects where maybe it wasn't the best clay, but if you could get your hands on, like, say, waste clay from a ceramicist, or even a bagged powdered clay, even like 2 or 3 50-pound bags of kale and clay would be enough to supplement your mix for an entire building
Wow.
to make it
Yeah.
stickier. Yeah.
Right. And of course there's lime all over,
Mm,
also.
okay.
Um, I don't like working with lime though. I avoid it. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah,
Anything that
yeah,
burns my hands, I'm like, that's okay. I'll pass. Unless
yeah.
it's
I
really
don't.
needed.
Yeah, I don't get the big hype about lime, lime, lime. I just like, why? Cob works great, with a good plaster on, and if
Yeah.
you need to, do some linseed oil or something to add to the water resistance. But yeah, wow. Well, so you're not teaching workshops either, or you're doing the
Well,
plaster, sculpting and the paints.
years ago, I was teaching like 10 workshops a year, and that was cool for a while, but I think I kind of just burnt out a little bit on doing just that. And then I kind of moved more into consulting, design, and just working with owner builders, directly, um, and doing, just private, like, contracts for people, building little cob structures for folks or things like that.
Hmm.
I still enjoy doing that. And I've done, maybe 1 to 3 workshops a year for the last maybe 5 years, something like that. Or I just do a couple workshops in the summer, and it's totally satisfying. I absolutely love it. Meet some new people, get the word out, and really just doing it only in the summer. And I haven't been traveling internationally recently. Um, which is what you would do, to get to nice weather in the wintertime. You got to go somewhere else. Um, but yeah, I still like teaching. I just think of it more as something I do in service. I don't make a ton of money for my workshops, really. That's not my focus. I just do it because people want the information and get it out there,
Mhm.
provide a platform for the community to come together. But yeah, yeah, I'm open to doing more workshops, but it has to be the right people. I'm pretty picky about who I work with, in terms of the workshop host. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, you definitely gotta be. I just spent 2 hours on the phone with some potential hosts to last night to really, check each other out. Because that is important. It's like a marriage, for at least for my workshops, they're pretty long. So got to make sure that you can communicate well with the people, that they really understand what they're getting into as hosts. It's not just, oh, we're getting a free building, everyone's going to come and we don't have to do anything. So that I've over the years I've written some documents that are really, really detailed about what the host requirements are,
yeah,
because it's true, they do get a cob building built without paying for labor, which these days, a small cob building like 150 to 200 round feet with labor is like 50 grand, because it takes like 6 weeks and you need 6 people,
yeah,
and and I'm talking $20 an hour,
yeah.
for the builder.
No, that's about
So
right. That's what I charge. Yeah,
yeah, so that's a lot of money. If people want to host, they save, most of that is labor cost. They save like, 45,000 or something, but they have to be on it, with good food and with, accommodations, like even if it's camping, like just, receive everyone comfortably. And it has to be the right people who understand how important it is to be a good host.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, there are some models out there. Other companies I've looked at and studied with, they'll get a contract from their client and they'll get paid from them, and then they'll open up the build to all of their past students. So they have this ongoing list of students and they invite everybody, and then they get 100 people come out and help them build this structure that they're getting paid to build, but they don't pay anybody, but they also aren't charging them money because they're not really teaching a workshop. It's more like a work party. So I mean, in some ways, there's some business savvy there, but I always kind of shied away from that because I never want to be exploitative in any way, So I'm not trying to just, oh, let's have a work party and get all these people to do my work for me. I'm more like, when I do a workshop, I want it to be an educational experience and be an official thing where I'm really focused on my students and their learning. And yeah, and I keep my
Yeah,
class sizes really small. It's always like 10 people or less because I can really focus and manage that many people, make sure everybody gets what they need and get all the
yeah,
information they need. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think I used to, I, I've been doing a 15 people max, but it's too much with 15. I think 10 to 12 max is a good number that's manageable so that you can actually give them your attention, and you can, end up with a quality building, not just something sloppy, um, because you didn't have enough human power to watch everybody build. So I'm with you on that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, wow.
So
So it's like it's a transition moment for you now. And tell me again, like, uh, what are you moving into?
so I in March I took a 4 hour, like a mini workshop on sensuality when I was around my birthday this year, taught by two women on this island. That one is half Azorian, half American. The other one is like Indian American from India. And it was a small workshop, and it was basically like exploring, um it's like self-care, you know, like they call it holistic sexuality, like holistic self-care and self-love and self-respect in our bodies, you know, using our bodies as the tools to develop that. And it blew me away, like, you know, at my age, that I hadn't learned this from, you know, my mother or growing up or in my life. And I also thought, I think most of the women on this planet don't have a clue about what how their lives could be on a sexual relationship level with other people, but also with themselves, like taking care of themselves in all these different ways. And then I thought, what about the young women and the young men? Because this is not only about women, it's women, men, and everything in between. Because I know, you know, these days I have to be careful with my verbiage of sexual, you know, gender and all that. Um, but human, basically human self love, self care through sexual uh, and sensual tools, basically. And I thought of how I would like to. I've gotten a lot of young women, especially, volunteer here. Like they reach out to me from Workaway. I get a lot. My workshops are mostly women, also. Not that I ask for it. Sometimes it's very hard when it's mostly women, but I draw I draw women because they see me as a model of strength, of, you know, I'm in a man's world with the building, building in a feminine way. Um, and you know, I don't have a partner. I haven't had like a full on partner since my, you know, divorce, separation from my children's father, which was a long time ago. I'm I'm the type that they call like a lone wolf. Like I just love to be free and not to have to answer to someone or work things out with someone. But at the same time, I think I'm ready to do that now. But
Yeah, I understand.
I really, huh?
I said I understand.
Yeah. I really loved my freedom, and like I'm never lonely. Like I never feel like, oh, I'm by myself here. I'm all by myself. Like I have tons of stuff to do and I enjoy being by myself. But at the same time, I think I've come here to the Azores to prepare for this transition, to actually, you know, come together with a partner, but also live in with other people together, in an eco village, whether it's here or another one that we create. But where I'm going with this is that I want to support, especially youth, like teenagers, women and men, coming into their sexual relationship life, to come in empowered, like respecting and honoring their bodies, respecting and honoring their souls and their hearts and their spirits, and to have these like week long or longer camps, almost retreats, camps, workshops that will include cobb, you know, because I know how empowering it is to work with the earth, and how it opens your heart and makes you also vulnerable, you know, and let yourself feel your feelings, and and allows for transformation too, like bonding with other people and showing your vulnerabilities, you know, and your softness. So cobb, of course, will always be a part of everything I do, but instead of it being the goal of the workshop, I would like it to be a tool in the workshop among other tools that will support young men especially and young women into maturity, you know, into growing themselves in a good way, in a way that most of us have not received that kind of instruction or guidance. I think growing up, I sure didn't. You know, I had to figure stuff out, and I don't know if I did a great job of it. You know, um, so yeah, I feel like in these elder years of mine that I want to support the youth with like what I've learned, what I've um, experienced, but also I still want to learn myself more. I need to learn also because I haven't taken a workshop in ages. You know, as my son says, Mom, you need to take a workshop. You need to do some learning now, you know. And I agree. I'm excited to learn from others. And there's going to be a retreat here in a few weeks, and I will be learning. I will be a student from these women who will be teaching vulva anatomy and zygote healing. And what else did I see on the list there? Yoni yoga and all these like beautiful, you know, holistic sexuality and empowerment and embodiment and all these things that are new for me, you know. And I'm excited to be a student, and I'm excited to open to my vulnerabilities too, you know, because I'm always the boss. I'm always the teacher, the one who's like in charge. And to tell you the truth, I'm kind of tired of it, you know?
Yeah. Well, that sounds beautiful. I mean, it's still all about empowerment, and you still have all this amazing experience that you're going to bring to this new thing that you're doing, and it's exciting. You're going in a new direction. It's like that's what we're here for, is to explore, you know, and try new things. And I'm also excited to continually study. Like, if I had all the time and money in the world, I would probably just be taking workshops all the time and learning from other people, because as many skills as I get, there's always something really interesting around the corner that I want to know about that too. And so I can relate to that a lot. Like recently, you know, last year I met Dan Winter, and it changed my life. I was like, oh yeah, I'm a scientist. I forgot. I'm really into science. And I'm going to go visit him next month in France. And then on the same trip, I'm also taking a workshop from a master mason in Barcelona, and I'll be learning the Catalan vault technique with the thin tile, thin shell masonry vaults. Like you see Antonio Gaudi's work, a lot of these thin tile vaults. So I'll get to learn that finally. I always admired it, and you know, I'm kind of anti-cement my entire career, and I'm sort of softening up a bit on that, in terms of like the appropriate time to use cement is when it really counts. You know, like for the ceiling, for a vaulted ceiling that uses these fired clay tiles, I think it's very appropriate. It's only 5 inches thick and incredibly strong. Catalan vaults are proven to last like hundreds of years, and so I'm really excited to learn that and just learn something new. You know, and then be able to, you know, just add that, whatever we learn this new, then we add that to our tool belt, and then we can, the world looks different when you learn new things, and then you can interface with the world in a new way. And so that's really exciting, to continue growth and expansion.
Yeah. Hey, why don't you stop here? I mean, there's flights from Barcelona to the Azores. Like, you should stop here. Actually, Top Airlines has an option when you fly from Lisbon to the US. They let you stop in the Azores for up to a week for free.
I would absolutely love to, but I can't make the time on this trip, so it'd have to be the next trip.
Oh,
But I really want to go to Portugal as well, and there wasn't time on this trip, so there's another trip in my future in that direction. Um,
okay.
I've never been to Portugal or the Azores, so I'd like to visit, and I like that part of the world a lot. I mean, like Spain. I lived in Spain for a while in college, and I absolutely love Spain. So um, I I'm excited to head back that direction.
When are you going to be there?
End of October,
Okay. For how long?
just a couple weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, we'll miss each other because I'm going to be in Barcelona December 10th.
Oh, so close.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's funny.
interesting.
I'm going to do a Vipassana meditation course for 10 days in
Okay.
Barcelona.
I've heard really
Yeah.
good things. I'm sure you're gonna have a great time. So worthwhile.
A great time. It's fucking hard, but it is very good. It's like a cleaning,
Yeah.
inner clean. Very good.
Well, yeah, I mean, you enjoy being with yourself and your own thoughts, so I think you're gonna have an easier time at it than some probably. I've never been,
Yeah.
but I definitely support, meditation, expansion of consciousness in every way we can find. And because
Yeah.
consciousness, I was giving a talk recently about this, how like the consciousness to me is the thing. It's paramount. So everything that we build, if it's a natural building or we're creating something in the world, I mean, our approach in within ourselves, the inner part, is what makes it all happen. That's what defines it. So I think consciousness is paramount. It's number one.
Yeah. Well, I think everyone on the planet should do a Vipassana course every year, like one a year, because it's very challenging, but it creates an inner discipline that is missing a little bit in our modern culture, and people are a little too ADD in general with all the stimulations of the technology. So anything to when you check into the Vipassana, they take everything, your phone, computer, no books, no pens, no paper, you know, nothing, no food. Like they give you everything. But you can't, and no talking, no looking at people in the eyes. um Very, very strict rules. And at first, the first time I did it, because I've done it 5 times already, I was rebellious, and I'm like, what am I rebelling against? I wanted to do this. Why am I like trying to sneak stuff, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah. It's
funny.
hard. Sometimes it's really hard to just do nothing. Yeah, that's great. Huh.
It's
Very
great. It's
interesting.
great. Well, it's
Well,
4:05, and I got stuff to do.
I know. And I was just gonna ask if there's some kind of like a final takeaway, like a statement you want to leave to our viewers, like your message to the world or whatever it might be. I mean, I feel like you've already said a lot that was just so beautiful, but if there's anything else you want to add as a final closing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm glad that we got to talk about and touch on my change of my new direction, or you know, the new path that I'm adding into my life. Um, you know, Honestly, I think everybody on the planet should know how to build a cob house. It's the most simple kind of house to build. Yes, they can also learn wood, but I think that might be even more complicated. Um, cob is I'm not like you, that I've done like earth bag. I haven't built a straw bale house. I haven't built like a only like clay straw, wattle and daub or taipa or parekin. I've only ever done cob. Why? Because I'm a Puritan. Like, I love how clean it is. I don't have to deal with noise, with power tools. I mean, for the roof, yes, kind of. not necessarily. Um, everything, there's no burning, no harmful things I have to wear masks for, or cover my skin for. Even wood these days, it smells. It's been like, passed through the kiln, and it's processed. Sometimes it even has, treatments on it. I don't know. The only wood that I use is like the pure, like just the wood that's been milled right up the street from me, that is just like cut and then milled, and that's it. But cob, everyone should learn how to build a cob house in their lifetime. It should be like a rite of passage, because it leaves people with so much empowerment, besides all the other perks we've talked about, like introspection, feeling their feelings, connecting with others. Like all those other benefits are just as powerful and important as the empowerment of knowing how to build your own shelter, like, and a good shelter too. In my opinion, the best there is. Cob houses last forever. I've seen cob houses without a roof that are still standing strong. So it's a rite of passage, I think, obligatory, especially for teens and young people, as they transition from high school to college. They should have to take a year off, build a cob house in that year, travel, do a Vipassana workshop, a Vipassana course. Like, there should be all this list, this checklist of of events that people, that teenagers should have to go through for a whole year in order to you know take the step into adulthood and know themselves, um, including the sexual uh, empowerment that I've talked about. I think the world would be a much more amazing, peaceful, happy place if that could happen, and there wouldn't be as much troubles, emotional troubles, depressions, and suicides that are happening with the young people today, and overdoses, and you know just sadness in general. Seems like there's a lot of sadness in happening, fear and stress. And yes, so something has to shift, you know in how we do life, and how we bring young people into adulthood, because they are the future, and that is a really crucial time, that 18-year-old 18 to 20-year-old transition.
Yeah, well said. Bravo. Wow. So
Thank
just wow. Thank you. Thank you for your dedication and sharing your philosophy. And it was really great interview. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I appreciate it as well, that you gave me the space and the time to share, share my life, and also get to know you a little bit. And let's see if we don't connect here, or there at some point in the near future. Would be fantastic.
That would
And
be
I
great.
wish,
I hope we cross paths. I would love that.
yeah. And thank you again for having me on your podcast show. I'm really honored, and I'm happy that it just happened.